Hello and welcome to Castle's Corner. I am Coach Castle, and I'm back again with another Red Pills of Resistance exercise series. In this series, we talk about why everything you know about exercise is completely wrong. Why all the personal trainers, online gurus, online coaches, professional bodybuilders are very uneducated, giving you misinformation and lies, hindering your training, your progress, and damaging your body. In this particular video, I'm going over the lateral deltoid, as well as the resistance curve. I do get a little bit technical in the video, but it's for a purpose. In this particular video, again, I'm going to be speaking of the resistance curve, which applies to all muscles. All muscles have a proper resistance curve, one which is maximally effective. All others are less effective or ineffective or damage your body as well as being ineffective. I chose the lateral deltoid to explain this movement because it simply seems the easiest one to do it with. You could use any muscle in the body though, as this principle applies to all muscles. Try to watch the video with an open mind, and I hope that the science is explained simply and easily for you to understand. If you find this video helpful, please like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever you can, and of course apply this to your own training principles. Of course, leave comments as well if you have any questions, by the way, or any criticism or ideas for improving my videos. Obviously, can always use the criticism, as can we all. Now, let's get on to the video. If you're ready to take that red pill, let's get started talking about the lateral delts. The lateral deltoid originates on the outer edge of the acromion process on the scapula. Its insertion is on the deltoid tuberosity on the humerus. Notice that the direction of the fibers of the lateral deltoids are parallel with the plane that runs through the origin and the insertion of the muscle. When the lateral deltoid contracts, or shortens, it brings the muscle insertion upward, towards the origin. This is the ideal pathway and range of motion for the lateral deltoid, moving the humerus from one side laterally up to a point where the humerus is almost perpendicular with the torso and no higher. The primary goal of any exercise should be to cause its optimum contraction, moving the limb towards the origin of the target muscle and then returning to a position where the fibers are optimally elongated. Doing an exercise that allows you to move more weight is not a legitimate reason for selecting that exercise. How much weight you're able to move during any given exercise is not indicative of how much a particular muscle is loaded or even how quote-unquote strong you are. Upright presses and upright rows, two common exercises performed for the lateral deltoids, allow a much heavier weight to be used. But do not load the lateral deltoids any more than do simple side raises. The overhead press uses shorter levers, bent arms instead of straight arms, thereby folding the levers, which reduces the magnification of the load of the deltoids. It also alters the alignment such that the origin and insertion of the lateral deltoids are not on the same plane as the direction of resistance. It engages other muscles which assist, the anterior deltoids and triceps, but of course all of these muscles could be worked with more efficient exercises. The overhead press also causes a significant strain to the infraspinatus and increases the likelihood of developing impingement syndrome. Moving on to the upright rows, the forearms act as secondary levers and they double underneath the upper arms, which are the primary levers for the deltoids, thereby reducing the effective length of the humerus or the upper arm bone. This reduces the magnification and thereby reduces the amount of load against which the deltoids must work. So yes, of course, a person is able to lift much more weight when doing an overhead press or upright row because their levers are doubled. However, it puts their body in a compromised and damaging position, as compared with side raises. But that is only because shorter levers are being used, so they are magnifying the resistance less. The deltoids are not necessarily getting any more load. Overhead presses and upright rows are much less efficient and have a higher risk of injury. The standing side dumbbell raise uses free weight gravity, and the resistance curve of this exercise is late phase loaded. It is lightest at the beginning of the range of motion and heaviest at the end of the range of motion. Because his arms are parallel with resistance at the beginning and perpendicular with resistance at the end of the range of motion, this resistance curve is the opposite of ideal. For the proper resistance curve when standing or seated, you must use cables. When using cables, it starts out heaviest and ends lightest. This is the correct resistance curve. Also, the resistance curve does not diminish all the way to zero at the conclusion of the range of motion. It diminishes but still provides about 40% resistance at the end. The reason for this is that the cable does not go all the way parallel with the arm in the late phase of the repetition. Ideally speaking, the height of the pulley should be about the same height as the wrist of the working arm at the start, thus allowing the cable to be perpendicular with the forearm during the early phase of the movement. This would cause the resistance curve to be the heaviest at the beginning of the range of motion, where the muscle is strongest, and lightest at the conclusion, where the muscle is weakest. An additional advantage of using a side raise exercise that provides a perpendicular resistance at the beginning of the movement, like standing cable raise or lying one-arm dumbbell side raise, is that the trapezius will be loaded much less. Using exercises that are not optimally efficient, like an overhead press and upright rows, is perfectly acceptable for people who don't mind spending more energy than is necessary, don't mind incurring a higher risk of injury, and are more concerned with lifting heavy weights and stroking their egos than they are with working their muscles and getting gains efficiently and safely. Lateral abduction of the humerus, or the side raise, is the purest, most natural anatomical motion of the lateral deltoid muscle, and also of the shoulder joint. A side raise moves the muscle insertion directly towards the muscle origin and utilizes perfect alignment. Now, the critical factor is combining that lateral abduction movement with the correct resistance curve. When we talk about a side raise, most people think of the side dumbbell raise. However, that is not the best exercise for the lateral deltoid. The movement of the humerus is ideal, but the direction of resistance is not. The standing side dumbbell raise can be improved very simply by lying on one side. This is the lying lateral raise. This provides a resistance curve that is the opposite of that which occurs during the standing side dumbbell raise. In this version of the side raise, the humerus is perpendicular with gravity at the beginning of the range of motion and is parallel with gravity at the end of the range of motion. When performing the lying lateral deltoid raise, the most efficient lateral deltoid contraction happens when the humerus is raised up to an angle that is between 10 to 20 degrees before it is perpendicular with the torso, provided that the scapula and the clavicle are not allowed to rise. When performing the lying lateral raise, you will be shocked by how little weight you will be using. This is of course because of the fact that you are using an exceptionally long lever and you are using a very small muscle. You must make sure that your arm is straight, and of course, for maximum hypertrophy and muscle strength, you should be raising the weight rapidly, roughly 1 second, and lowering it very slowly, roughly 4 seconds. You should of course be counting these seconds out loud or in your head. Don't worry about the reps if you're filming yourself or you have a partner. Now, you can of course perform this exercise with a machine that has a properly designed cam, or you can use cables as is demonstrated here. When using the cables, you should of course ensure that the cable originates about wrist height, and once again, raising the weight rapidly and lowering it in a controlled manner for about 4 seconds. Now I hope this helps, guys, and good luck.